Okay, so we're going to get going here on our podcast. This is number two. No, this is number three.
Yeah, this is number three.
Three already. Wow. Okay. Okay. So what do you what's on deck? You got some
Yeah, well,
stuff written down?
so one thing that we had talked about earlier this week is the idea of willing things into existence. That was
Mm,
something where you're like, Let's talk about that in the next podcast." The universe is conspiring against you, right, to make this impossible. You think you've got it perfect, and it will just keep hitting you in ways that you didn't expect. But if you just keep at it, eventually the universe gives up, and you win. And now this thing that you had imagined is part of the universe. And
right.
like it's I mean, we like to talk in abstract about these things, but I think everybody else likes to hear concrete examples,
Hmm.
to kind of understand the abstract as well.
Right. Right. Well, that first came into that phrase was something I used on the spot. It just I was before the Math Academy school program existed. In the Pasadena Unified School District, and we're talking, geez, the original group of kids that I was working with, they were in fifth grade. They're now seniors in high school. Okay, and I was trying to figure out how to expand this program. This no, I'm sorry, this accelerated pull up math class that I had just sort of been able to get going again, but sort of a force of will with the and of course with the cooperation of the school, but it was really something that I made happen. Um, and I was speaking with there's a guy who would run all the sort of like he was running like the robotics program for the school district, and he was in charge of sort of like the gifted education enrichment things that were happening. And he was a guy at Caltech, really bright guy. And so I had kind of connected with him and said, "Here, I'm doing this sort of crazy thing where I have these kids in fifth grade and they're doing algebra and trigonometry and all this stuff." And he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And so I was trying to get some help from him or some guidance from him, like how do we make this a district program? Because he had sort of created. He was hired. I mean, he was a employee of the district, but he had created this robotics program in all of the middle schools, and then that fed into this thing called App Academy at one of the high schools, where there's this kind of a 4-year programming thing. And so he says, I want to introduce you to the basically the patron of the robotics program, because the school district doesn't have the funds for this. He's a really successful tech entrepreneur, and he has, you know, generously funded this thing. And so he set up a lunch between the three of us, and the entrepreneur, who has since become a friend of mine, but I'm just going to keep his name out of this because he's kind of a low profile guy, and so he's sitting there quietly listening to the other guy and I talking about what I want to do. There's what I've been doing with these kids, and my thought of like, hey, these kids can do algebra and trigonometry in middle school, and we could, make this should be in all the schools, and all this sort of stuff. And he sits there and he just goes, and I think there was some back and forth about what it might look like and how it would work and all this sort of stuff. But then he goes, "What makes you think you can make this happen?" And I said, "Because I'm going to will it into existence." And he just looked at me. He was just like, huh. And years later, he said, when you said that, I had sort of two thoughts. It's like either this guy is kind of crazy or he is the real deal. Like, this is going to be interesting to see what happens here. And and what I meant by that is not that I'm going to manifest it, or some woo bullshit. It means that I'm going to use sheer force of will to bring this thing into existence. This thing does not exist, but I'm going to make it exist, because whatever obstacles are in the way, I'm going to find a way around them, over them, through them, whatever it takes. It might be problem solving, it might be creative marketing, it might be building, an army of allies, whatever it takes. And I think anytime you want to do something that's outside the system, that doesn't already have sort of a infrastructure and a thing in place, it really comes down to a force of will. Because whatever idea you have, like, oh, this is going to be this cool new thing, and here's all the benefits, and that may be true, but there are going to be so many obstacles and frankly, people that are going to try and slow you down, stop you, right? They're going to try to derail you.
Yeah, because
And
systems don't like new things, right? It's kind of part of what they are. They try to just maintain a state of homeostasis. And if you want to get something integrated in, you have to almost make it easier for them to just accept that it's going to be integrated. Like it's just easier to accept it than fight it, because you just you're
That's
unstoppable.
right.
What's that?
That's right.
Unstoppable force versus immovable object.
Right. And usually, okay, so a couple things. It's almost like the human body. The human body it attempts to create sort of a homeostasis, like keeps everything the same. So whenever you want to change it, you want to say, we've used this analogy a lot, but use this, but you want to say, get in better shape. You want to become more muscular or something. Well, guess what? Your body's going to resist that. So you have to work hard to change your body, right? You have to go and lift heavy weights consistently, over a period of time, and your body will change. It will fight that, or you lose weight, or whatever you're trying to do. It involves effort, intention, and consistency to do it. And you have to be perfect, but you constantly have to be hammering away, with intention. And the world is like that in a way too. There are all these sort of moving parts and these systems and these vested interests, and people are just, they found a place in this world, right? This is my job, or this is my department, or this is my thing that I do, and they don't really want it to change typically. If they do want to change just some little thing just to make their life easier, it's not some other person or other thing coming out to say, we're going to change this. People are like, what, why, how is this going to screw up my life, make things more difficult for me, make me do more work, right? Because in bureaucracies, meaning whether it's a government bureaucracy or a corporation or company or like a school, there are layers of bureaucracy in this thing, right? Even at a middle school, you got, well, it's just not the teacher, it's the middle head of the middle school, it's the assistant principal, it's the principal, it's the resource teacher, it's the counselors. I mean, there's all this bureaucracy, all these people that have opinions and ideas and plans, and this is schedules, and we figured it out. This is what we're doing. This is what the school day is. This is what the year is. And then somebody wants to come in and go, we're going to change stuff. They're just like, what? Right? No, this is right. Because not only does it screw up whatever they already had it in place, which they had, for whatever reason, either they were happy with, or at least had accepted and made peace with. Now you're probably going to make them do more work, or it's going to, or force them to adjust. And people don't want to adjust. They don't want to change, right? Even if you can make a strong argument for that this thing you want to do is going to be an improvement, it's going to help kids or whatever, it's easy for people to rationalize fighting against it or resisting it, because it's just, people don't want to do more work. And in bureaucracies, it's filled with people, and this is true of anywhere. It's not just a school. You go to any corporation around the planet, and people don't want to change how they're doing stuff unless their boss comes in and says, this is what's happening. And it's not just my opinion, my boss's boss and on top. And then you're like, oh, okay. Right. But even then, employees are undermining and resisting, passively resisting if they can, this extra thing that they have to do or this new thing, and they grouse about it or fighting, oh, why are we doing this? It's stupid. And I don't know, whatever. If it makes them do more work, right? So when you have this natural impedance, this natural resistance against you, you have to have an incredible amount of will to overcome it, right? Because it's not the so, oh, well, I'll just explain to them how this is going to work. And then they'll be convinced. Like it's never, ever that, or I'm just going to go meet with the boss and I'll convince them and then they will make everybody do it. And it is never even that simple because you have this resistance from within. People are sandbagging you and sabotaging you behind. You don't realize this sometimes till years later. In my case, I found out later there were people who were actively trying to undermine. Anyway, so you have the humans themselves who are fighting you. Even it's not even having any direct competitors. I mean, forget if you're doing a free market or something, you're creating a new product or service. You have competitors who see you as a threat, and they're often going to attempt to directly undermine, directly fight you. But even in a situation like I'm describing, where they're not really competitors, it's just people who won't want their lives complicated. And yeah, I can understand it. Like nobody wants to do extra work. Like, why am I getting paid anymore for this? I get my job salary. This is what I do. This is my job. I think I do a good job at it. And now I have to do this thing or this extra work.
So can you paint a picture? Like, what did this look like concretely in the school system?
Yeah. So what this looked like is, okay. I have a lot of examples. But one other thing I want to say about it is not just people, it's just the complexity of resolving resolving issues. Like when you're writing code and you're like, oh, I'm going to write these new functions going to do this thing. And you realize, oh crap, there's these other things that's going to affect and I got to change. So you have to problem solve around this thing you want to do and how it's going to impact other things, right? It's like, well, someone's not trying to resist you, but they're like, well, Jason, the schedule this and this and this and this red tape. And you're just like, right, okay. Now I gotta think of a solution, right? Okay, so what does this look like in practice? So in my case, it was, I would continually have to get people excited about what I was doing. So at the school level, when this, without going into the complete story, it was just getting the principal, getting the head, I was a resource teacher. She was going to have gifted education, get her really excited, get the people who had some influence or some power, making them aware of what you're doing and getting them excited about it. Right. So you're building support, right? Probably anybody at any corporation say, yeah, right. You got always going to do, you got to build allies and build an army in a way. That can look at getting parents excited, making sure the kids are excited, for instance, make sure the parents are really keeping them emails, constantly sending emails, say, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that, look at what we did. And the parents are like, oh, it's really exciting. So you get all this enthusiasm. Talk to the teachers, occasionally run the teachers in the hall and be like, oh, hey, just let me show you what we did. And that. And so the teacher's like, oh, that's really cool, right? So you want to make sure you don't feel like you're stepping on their toes. You're just like doing this extra thing, right? And you can, if they have any kind of concerns or whatever, you can kind of hear them. You're sort of developing a rapport with them, right? And then when it got beyond the school and it got to the school district, it was, even though we had the superintendent, he was really excited about what we're doing. It was, what you end up doing is just someone in senior leadership might say, well, yeah, I want this to happen, right? Where's the CEO or whatever. Well, then it gets passed down to somebody who's going to be in charge of helping you make this thing happen, right? And that person may or may not be really excited about what you're doing, right? Or even if they're not against it, they got other stuff going on, Like, this is just not a priority. It's like, okay, yeah, well, my boss says all kind of stuff, right? And they will say it to me. It's like, yeah, well, okay, he says this, but he doesn't quite understand that this can't happen for these reasons. So they just kind of blow it off, or just like, oh yeah, okay,
So it's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
basically, but before you try to really muscle this thing through, like, it's going to be just force of will at the end, but you want to make it as easy as possible. Like, just try to eliminate all sort of potential resistance, just kind of grease the situation to make things go through as smoothly as possible.
Yes, 100%. I mean, will having willing something existent doesn't mean you're like a blunt instrument, right? Because that doesn't work. That just pisses people off, right? And then you get, instead of passive resistance, you get active entry. You create direct enemies, people who hate you, right? You want to avoid creating enemies, right? Because they could do a lot of damage. They may not come to your face and yell at you or something, but they will be sabotaging. They'll be blowing up bridges and stuff in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, because once
Figuratively,
somebody
right?
hates you, then they just get pleasure out of opposing you, no matter what it is. It's like, even if it makes their life easier, like you go from a state from, okay, initially people are resistant to new stuff and stuff that makes more work for them, but once, if people hate you, even if you're doing something that ultimately makes their life easier, they might resist it just because they hate you, just to oppose you and get satisfaction
Right.
out of that.
So you don't want to offend people, demean people, make them feel bad. You want to try and make it as easy for them possible, and you want to help them get credit for it. Say, hey, let's do this thing, right? This is going to be really cool. Like, I'll do the heavy lifting, and so you keep them in the loop. You keep them updated. Hey, just want you to know, I met with this person. I think we can do this. What do you think? You kind of try and pull them along and make them feel as good about it as possible. So there was this one woman who was just amazing, who worked at school, just super bright, and I quickly realized that she was a problem solver. Like, she'd be like, because she would say, Jason, like, there's X, Y, and Z requirements for Common Core math and accreditation, and different types of red tape. And I'd be like, well, what if we did this? And she'd be like, okay, let me think about it. So she would kind of help me navigate the red tape and bureaucracy by just explaining, like, well, you can't do this for these reasons. And I'd be like,
So
interesting.
she's kind of like your compiler, almost, this bureaucracy compiler. You're trying to, like, basically write code that compiles on this bureaucracy, and she's giving you all these error messages telling you why this doesn't work or that doesn't work, and you're just cycling through these quick iterations, feedback loops, planning, so you can get some kind of approach that's going to stand up against this monster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She I one time I jokingly called her the dark side of the moon. That's always bad. And she thought that was funny. She liked that. She would tell other people, Jason calls me the dark side of the moon. Because it was always like, well, you can't for, I'm like, Jesus. I mean, she went on to win like administrator for the year in California or something. Like, she's, like I said, she's really great. And but you find people who are not just, say, supporters, or allies, or that kind of thing, but somebody who can really help you navigate. Like, you need a guide. Like, I'm in this dark forest, and I need someone who lives here, can walk me through this, because I'm going to get lost, right? And they're going to, like, well, you're someone who's navigating a foreign land. You need a guide, right? She was my guide, right? And not only navigating the red tape and the regulations and state laws and all that kind of stuff, but just navigating the bureaucracy to some degree, right? So, but a lot of it would also take is that I would continually show up. Look, I'd be like, okay, so what's the status? After teaching one of these classes, I just roll on over to the admin building and be like, hey, what's going on? What's the latest with this? What's the latest with that? So it's like, it's like, they're like, Jesus, like, this guy's never going away. He's just never going away. And I would joke around with them, and I was friendly. I mean, I liked them. I wasn't put on. I would I'm pretty good with people, and I tend to enjoy people, and I like joking around, and so it's easy for me to just
Yeah, you're trying to build a genuine relationship with them.
for relationship rapport, and I did, and we had. I think we enjoyed talking to each other, but I would continue. I wouldn't just like wait for somebody. I would send an email and wait for somebody to get back to me. I would go and just pop in. Hey, so what's going on with this? Hey, any progress on this? Oh, by the way, I did that. You know what I mean? And so it's just like we quickly realize that there's resisting Jason and there's cooperating with Jason, and it's going to be a lot more work to resist Jason, right? You want to be resisting you to be the hardest thing that they're going to have to do, right? Not because you're their enemy, but just because they're just kind of like, hey, I like Jason. I like what he's trying to do. It sounds kind of crazy, like it's work, but God, it's just okay, fine, you know. And you just try and make them feel good about it. You're pulling them along on this journey, right? Like Lord of the Rings, you're a hobbit. You got to come on this journey with me, right? They don't want to do it. They're in their hobbit hole, and they're like, fine, and you kind of inspire them, and they're like, all right, it's easier to go on this journey with Gandalf than it is to resist him or something, So you kind of have to, you kind of have to create that dynamic, but it's just you're problem solving, you're communicating, you're continually what's the status, and my one of my oldest and closest friends, Phil, we did our first startup together, and he said his nickname me was Horse. He's like, God, because he's like, you're like a goddamn horse. She's like bucking and rearing, like in the gate and formed like a horse race, and they're just, it's like you just got so much. And so like he and I were writing code and stuff, and we'd kind of come to conclude, okay, we're gonna build this. I'm like, right. And then like an hour and a half later, I'm like, how's it coming? He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, how's it coming? He's like, Jesus, dude, I'm just trying. I'm like, all right. And then like an hour later, how about now? He's like, God, like you're horsing me, man. You're like constantly horsing me. How about now? Is it done yet?
This is relatable, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I harass you all the time.
Well, the thing is, like, it's like I think the key, some key things to point out to listeners right here is, number one, the horsing does not stop when somebody is on your team and is going on this journey with you. The horsing continues, and it's not a horsing in a kind of like, let me annoy you into this sort of way. It's a horsing of like, just keep it, whatever
pure
the
enthusiasm.
It's
pure. It's just enthusiasm, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So you're always driving that enthusiasm, excitement meter all the way to the top. It just naturally maybe comes down from 100% to 80%, and then bam, like you just shove it back up to 100%, and it's great and it's fun, and it really has a positive effect of getting more stuff done. And I mean, when you're on a team and the leader is horsing you and you end up going further because of that, like everyone's happy. It's like it's really exciting. So yeah, it's a very positive thing.
Well, I'm glad. Well, as I always tell you, like, hey, if I call you and it's because sometimes I'll call you and it's the evening because I'm on West Coast, you're on East Coast, and I'm like walking the dog at like 5:00, which means 8:00 for you, and I'm like, okay, if you guys are eating dinner, like, don't piss Sunjin off by answering the phone, right? Like, I don't want to go, God, Jason's calling again, like, don't. That's fine. You don't have to answer the phone, but if you're just sitting around working, and she's doing other stuff, then yeah, let's I want to hear an update. I'll tell you what's going on. I had some thoughts on some stuff. So yeah, I try and I realize I can be a bit much, right? Like, I am fully aware that I am a lot. And, as Sandy always says to me, she's like, I have to take a nap every day because of you.
But yeah, the funny thing is you've got Sanjana on the train now. Whenever I get off the phone with you, she's like, "What'd you guys talk about? What are you doing
Really?
now? What's next?" Like,
what's going on? Oh, that's great. I mean, yeah. I don't want to create, like I said, I don't want to create enemies. And I don't want the wives of your directors and key people to be like, damn, Jason, he's just like, you don't want them to be, they want them to be like on board and excited. So that's good to hear. But yeah, so you just kind of, and I think Phil had actually talked to me about even the Math Academy itself, the whole online thing. He's like, dang, you goddamn horsed this whole thing. You just horsed it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't just me, Justin and Alex and Alex, Tammy and Sandy, they've done a ton of work. There's no way. I mean, obviously it's way beyond me, but I definitely horsed it. There's no question. So like willing something existence is in both cases, it was that really what that's saying is that I have this goal and nothing is going to stop me. I am going to finish. I'm going to make this happen. And you commit to it and you just drive for it and you use problem solving and you push and and that, as I said, I talked to my youngest who's, driving to try and get a Division I scholarship in gymnastics, which is like it's incredibly difficult thing to achieve because there's like 400 spots a year open up and it's crazy, right? And I would say, look, if you just can every day, you just keep doing what you're doing, you just keep executing and keep improving and you just never give up and you keep pushing, the universe will bend. Okay, the universe will bend. It cannot sustain that kind of continual pressure, the continual effort. The world would just say, all right, fine. Fine, right? Just basically like the school district was like, all right, fine, Jason, we'll do this Math Academy thing. Because I remember we went and gave a presentation, a couple years after after the whole program got going. It was all the middle schools and the high school. We're getting press, Washington Post and stuff that started writing articles about us. And we gave this presentation to La Cañada School District, which is a wealthy school district nearby, and they tend to do really well. But they weren't doing anything like this mathematically, right? This was just way above anything. Kids doing calculus in 8th grade is just crazy, right, to them. And a lot of the parents were really excited about it. And a lot of these parents worked at JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab, which is because Caltech is right here in Pasadena. Jet Propulsion Lab, JPL is 10 minutes away, right in the center of right in La Cañada. So a lot of people who work at JPL, or their kids go to the La Cañada School District, right? So they're all like, we're a wealthy school district, JPL parents, Caltech parents, and our kids are just grade level Common Core stuff. And yet at Pasadena, where 2/3 of the students are on free and reduced lunch, are doing calculus in 8th grade. WTF? And they're like, and I had been talking to a couple of parents, one in particular who was just really interested in upgrading what was going on in La Cañada, really super involved parent who worked at JPL. And he's just scheming, like, how do I get this into, he's like, I'm going to set up a meeting and he got all these parents, and then it was like the superintendent and principals and the superintendent principals didn't want to do it, right? They didn't want change, right? They're already doing much better in their math scores than the surrounding school districts. Not because they were so great, but everything else is so bad that they looked great in comparison. So they're like, why are we changing anything? So the last thing they need is this outside agitator trying to do this gifted math thing. They don't want to do that, right? And so the administration people showed up kind of mostly to resist this thing. They just like, well, what is this? So Sandy and I stood up and gave this big talk to the parents, explaining like how this thing worked. And it was mostly, again, like, asking very sort of questions. Almost like they're trying to find ways to not have to do this, and they don't want to do it, whatever. And I remember sitting around with some of the parents in the parking lot afterwards, and they were just like, how did you guys make this? Because they didn't quite realize the level of resistance that was going to come from the principals and superintendents and chief academic officers who just, they don't believe in gifted education or advanced. They want everyone just to be a grade level, everybody does everything at the same pace. That's what they want to do, right? Philosophically, Also, it just makes their life easier too, conveniently, right? You'll notice that doing less, making everybody do the same thing, is not only makes them feel good in some ways, but it just makes their life easier, and it makes less work for them, right? If everybody wears a size medium shirt, now this is easy. I don't have to measure, oh, well, you're extra small and you're a large and extra large, but you're double X. Oh, gee, we got all these different size shirts, and how many we order of each, and who's wearing what size shirt. They don't want to deal with that. Everyone wears a size medium shirt. And you're like, wait, my daughter is really small. It's kind of like a dress for her. Just cinch it. That's really a medium. And you're just like, and my son, who's actually big, it doesn't even cover his stomach. They're like, well, it's like air conditioning. Just like they give you this bullshit, right? And you're just like, you're looking like, this is so dumb, But anyway, so this group of parents who were organized, highly educated, PhD, physicists, astronomers, computer scientists, all these problem solvers, connected. A lot of them were done well, tech startups, money. They couldn't make anything like this happen. Couldn't make it happen. And they're like, how in the hell did you and Sandy make this happen? And I was like, well, I didn't say force of will. I was like, at the time, I actually don't quite remember, but they just couldn't understand, because parents around the country had always tried to do things like this, and they just get swatted away first or second efforts. They set up a meeting with the board, or set up a meeting with whatever, and they just don't do it the right way. And part of it is because they don't have the mentality of a startup founder, which is fundamentally a disruptor. Right? Disruptors are pirates, right? They're like, we're not playing by any rules. We're going making this happen no matter what. You're special forces or something. Where everybody else is like regular army. They don't understand this kind of what it takes, and the kind of resourcefulness and commitment and just out of the box thinking, and just how many times you have to keep hitting on things. Anyway, and of course, it never happened, never took hold in La Cunada, and they just kind of got swatted away. And because, I think they just gave up. The parents gave up. They put in some work, but they weren't willing to do everything they needed to. But one other thing I'll say had in my favor. So I'm teaching this. So Sandy would teach the class maybe when they're fifth grade, but then she kind of had enough after that. She was on the executive committee of the Pasadena Educational Foundation, which raised millions of dollars for the school district every year from big foundations and corporations and stuff, and put on would create programs. They put on the summer, they had like a summer school programs, like a half a day thing where you take like fun classes, and they did this art program. They reading programs. They put all these special programs, all this money. So the superintendent, the board was just, always trying to keep the Pasadena Educational Foundation happy, right? Well, she's in the executive committee of this thing. So she meets with the superintendent. She's on a first name basis with the superintendent. And so she's like at headquarters, right? I'm out in the field, and I'm like, can you like bomb this ending position on the top of this hill? And they're like, she's like, all right, I get it. Like, all right, guys, let's go. You know what I mean? It's like, I had air cover, right? And I can't overstate how important that was. Because if I was just me in the trenches with my guys trying to fight hand-to-hand combat, or just sort of jungle warfare, it's really, really tough, even if you have like this crazy group of special forces or whatever. Like, sometimes you need to call in air cover. You need someone who's at headquarters who can get the resources in place to help you out. So anyway, so what does willing something just means? It means giving everything you got, marshaling all the resources, and just refusing to give up, and then just putting continual pressure on something until your goal is achieved. That's what willing to exist is. It is not lying in bed at night trying to manifest it, thinking, I just really want this to happen for me. That's obviously just
completely passive. Willing is like willing as an action, not as a thought, as an act of you going out and doing things.
It's actions all the way down. Actions. It's just, and you have to have a ton of energy, and you have to be it has to be something you really want, because it's not going to come easy. If it's something you really, really want for whatever reason, because you believe in it, because it's important to you, for whatever. But that's what it takes. And I think if you find the people who create big change, create big companies, big whatever, even nonprofit, whatever the thing is, they're a horse, right?
Yeah.
One way
Well,
or
yeah.
another.
Well, because it's also like, so in addition, there's the big willing stuff into existence, like the bringing the organization into existence and all that. But it's like every single new feature that comes out, right? That's like something that we haven't done before. That is like new space, new territory. It comes with this a similar kind of. And it's on a smaller scale, but it's a similar kind of battle where it's like you it doesn't give way in one day or 2 days or 3 days or even one iteration or two iterations. It's
Or even a
like it's
week,
a
or even a month, or even a
constant.
year.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But so you really have to keep pushing on it, and it's like I guess I I guess like after like the organization is established now, like getting all these new features out, it's like you suddenly have battles of will on many different fronts within the the organization, trying to push all these things into existence, like we talked about last time with the breadth first development, all the progress bars loading. Eventually a progress bar just kind of stops loading and you're like, what's going on, why aren't you loading? And you just have to like muscle it into loading again.
What just, it would be interesting hearing your perspective.
Yeah.
Because before you started working with me on Math Academy, you were 23, 20, maybe 24. 2000. This was summer 2019.
Summer 2019. Yeah, I was 23.
Yeah, 23. So you were just a year out of college or so, year and a half out of college or something, 2 years, whatever. You didn't know how the world worked. Like most 23-year-olds, they don't really. I mean, you don't. I'm still learning how it works, but you definitely don't know, really understand. I mean, you probably had no idea how, because of your perspective of like the startup, of how this thing came into being or happened. I mean, what is your perspective on making stuff happen, making
um
something exist that
yeah,
did
I mean,
not exist?
I wasn't there to witness the whole Math Academy in school program. But I mean, I taught in it, right? And I got a little bit of a taste of the kind of pushback from just bureaucracy and administration. Because there was even like after it was even established in the school program, running fairly smoothly. I mean, there was still, it's like, it was never just like done like just like you write code and it works and you just like leave it there and it keeps working and you check back on it, it's the same code and it's doing the same thing and you're just like, all right, well that was a constant source of like,
You know what it's like? It's like an organ transplant.
yeah,
You can get the liver or kidney transplanted, but your body is going to be continually, its immune system is continually trying to reject it, right? So you have to have these sort of, I don't know, white cell suppressing drugs or things, immune suppressing drugs, to keep the organ from being rejected, which was something that we were dealing with, because I would be asking you about what's going on in school, for administrators talking to you, different thing is like how to keep Math Academy from being rejected, expelled from the school district,
yeah,
right?
yeah, right, because it was like the Math Academy was like an official program, there's kids in class there. It's not like there's the risk of the class just suddenly drops out of the school program midway during the year, but there's stuff like the instructors not reviewing topics, not holding, there's a bar for the level of standard and accountability that has to be met to keep this thing running smoothly, to keep kids legitimately doing AP Calc BC in 8th grade and getting
Yeah.
solid scores on the AP exam. And there's always the pressure um, from people who are not fully vested in it, who are not
Not
just,
fully enrolled. Not
yeah, they're
fully
not fully
enrolled.
enrolled and they want to like, it's like they're they're running this incremental, gradual. Let's just make it a little bit easier each day.
Degrade it.
And
Just continually degrade it.
yeah,
Reversion to the mean, right? Because like people ask, well, why does everything mean reverting, right? It's because it's a lower energy state, for the system or whatever to accept. Like, why have you stopped exercising? Do you get out of shape? Or why does things just because it's less energy, it takes less work to be out of shape than it takes to be in shape. So your body, as soon as you stop like actively going running every day or whatever you're doing, you're losing, your degrade, your fitness, all this stuff is degrading. And it's the same with the program, is that you just have these people who are like, well, Math Academy, because it has such high standards, requires more work, requires more vigilance, more effort from the instructors to keep the kids doing these things that they have to do, that they can't just like phone it in and be like whatever, like they do with most of their other classes. The parents have to kind of stay on top of it and keep them enrolled. And if a teacher just wants to get in and doesn't really want to, fight against the the degradation, they don't want to push, and not even push that hard, but it's easy for people to get lazy. Humans we're fundamentally lazy. We fundamentally don't want to do shit, right? I mean, your instinct is to just lie down, watch TV or something, right? I mean, it's just to do the least amount of thing possible. And as you notice, it's like people are always, because how we evolved, it's like there's into an ecosystem where it's like we don't know where we're going to get food. We don't know how much energy it's going to take to find more food, so we need to be careful about how we expend our energy. I mean, you don't see lions or whatever running around just for fun. They conserve their energy until it's time to go hunt, right? And that's because that gives them a competitive advantage, an evolutionary advantage, is to conserve energy unless you need to. So humans, we conserve energy unless we really need to expend it. And what that means is, if people's default is to conserve energy, it's like, look, if I have 3 ways to drive to work and one takes 10 minutes and one takes 30 minutes, I'm going to take the 10-minute drive. I mean, it's like I can walk around. If what's the fastest way I can make a sandwich? I'm not walking the long way around the island every time I get the things out, and then I'm going to make it and then put everything back. I'm not going to be right. Just, we always are optimizing to conserve energy, conserve time. Okay, so that's the default reflex of all humans, which means if the thing that you are doing in some way requires more effort, more work, even if it's not that much more, it's still more, then they're going to try and do less, which means they're going to be degrading it over time. And if they degrade it a little bit and there was no real pushback, say, hey, what are you doing? Get that thing back up, right? Then you're going to degrade a little more the next time. And you just degrade. I got away with that. It's like the power of gradualism. And then all of a sudden you look around, you're like, what happened? This thing is just a husk of what it used to be. It's like, well, humans did less and less over time, got away with it. There was no painful pushback from someone to say, hey, fix this, or you're fired, or you're losing funding, or whatever. And then they will degrade. They will find other ways to cheat it. It's like, if a trainer is training someone in, and whatever the thing is, and they're just doing less effort and they're kind of cheating and they're kind of moving their body around, so they don't really have to do as much effort, and the trainer doesn't say anything, they'll just keep cheating it.
yeah, yeah. All right, and it's the trainer's job to point
Hey,
it out.
keep your back
And
straight. No,
yeah,
don't limp your body. Just use that, whatever it is. Like, do the thing. And so, right, and people are actually paying trainers to keep, because people know they themselves will cheat it. Like, I won't go to the gym, but I have an appointment with this trainer, so I gotta go, right? Because I would say, like, there'll be this debate, like you'll see these, like, I don't know, these actors, and they're all like, they're for some action role, and they're like totally really fit. They're like, wow, they got their own nutritionist and their own personal trainer. And so, okay, well, why? Okay, true. Why is that an advantage? I mean, working out is not that hard. I mean, you can get a YouTube video, you can get an app on your phone for free, or $1 a month or whatever, and you can get very good exercise. It's not that hard. What it is somebody who is sitting there making you not do less. Do more. Do what you need to do. Show up 6 days a week. Do this stuff that I'm telling you, do it the right way, and then you'll get, because we just natural. We all know, like, I won't go. I won't do it.
It's kind of funny how you'd see this in the I just when you and I would talk about our classes, we would talk about the like exponential decay of XP. Like so basically like you get kids they come in at the beginning of the school year, you make it a rule, you guys need to get 40 XP done a day, and I want at least half of that done during class. Like you can talk to friends, you can be a kid, there's time for that, but you also the the way you earn that is by actually sitting down and focusing for at least half the time and knocking out your XP. Um, and so the thing was like you initialize them correctly, they're knocking out their desired XP. But if you don't continually check in on them, hold them accountable like that, the XP will gradually go on an exponentially decay curve. And so they'll start out like some kids doing 30 XP a day on in the first couple days. It turns into 25 XP a day, 20, 15, 12, 10, 7. Like if you don't check in and force force a standard, it'll fall below the standard. The standard is only it is effectively only how much you enforce it. Yeah, so that was it definitely felt like a kind of every year was kind of like a almost another like some small scale one of these battles where it's like, okay, got to get all the kids excited, got to get all the parents excited, email every single parent, establish a good relationship. Even if there's no issues with a kid, like if a kid aced their quiz or whatever, or just was really focused today and did a great job or asked a good question, go email their parent, establish a good relationship. I was fortunate that you coached me on this at the beginning. That where it was like I had a lot of these good relationships in place because you're going to need to use those later when the kid is not doing as well. The kid has kind of fallen off the rails a little bit and they're not responding to you in class telling them to get their act together. You can email their parent, or if they, sometimes this is not, sometimes this kind of sneaks up on you where the kid will just tell their parent, oh, I had so much homework today. They didn't actually have that much homework. They just didn't really, they goofed off in class. They had like 25, 30 XP to do at home. And then they didn't really focus on that at home. They were all simultaneously watching YouTube or texting with their friends or whatever. And it took them like 3 hours to do because they were only working like a quarter of the time. Um, and and so the parent will email there were a couple times when I got an email from a parent and I was like, what is going on? So what I would do is I would have the kid sit next to me during class, and then I'd be like, all right, you're knocking out all your XP today during class. You I today is not a day for socializing, but if you knock out all your XP today during class, then you can kind of go back to like you're not in jail tomorrow. You're
Not
out
permanent
again. You can,
detention. You're
yeah,
temporary. This is just one day
yeah,
detention
exactly.
with me.
Yeah, and just to demonstrate to them and their parents that like, if they actually just sit down and focus, and I'm not helping them, by the way, I'm not helping them do their work or anything. I am just their accountability manager to make sure that they're just show them what they can do if they focus the whole time. And so they complete all their XP and more. They now got like 50 XP in the day. So they completed all of today's work. They have no homework today, and they've cut down their workload for tomorrow as well. And so they
Right.
they go home. I email their parent, hey, guess what? Like I made sure so and so was on task today, like fully focused the whole time. They knocked out all of their XP and then some. And and the parents' reaction is like this is not like an adverse communication with the parent. It's all like you have a positive relationship, so the parent trusts you and knows that you just want to see their students succeed in this program, and and you frame it as a positive. look how much they did when they actually focused. And like like you got the parent on your side, the kid is like hopefully at least somewhat on your side because you've kind of demonstrated to them like dude, it's not, I'm not asking you to run a marathon every day. Like this is just do your push-ups, do your pull-ups. It's 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 like taking the dog for a walk. It's 20 minutes, 30 minutes of full effort is all I want from you in class. And you can chat with your friends uh, outside of that time. There's plenty the other 20 minutes of class. Like yeah, you can goof off. It's just yeah, making sure
Yeah, this is
they
not a
put
work
that
camp,
intensity
you
in.
know, but it's also not recess. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, just do some work and right. Well, you know, it's yeah. So it was funny when you first started becoming an instructor and stuff. I mean, I obviously I had been doing this. I had done it for years, so I had some experience, you know, with it and how to make it work. But also, like as a parent myself, like I understood, like okay, how do you get parents on your side? Because if you can get parents who are totally enrolled in this project and they really trust you, then your life is way easier than if you have parents who are like, I don't know, there's some class or something. I don't know who teaches it, right? They don't know you. They don't trust you because they don't know you, right? By default, people don't necessarily trust people they don't know. I mean, they just do a little bit of trust, but not much. But if you're like, send them an email at the beginning of the year, hey, this is what we're doing. This is a really exciting thing. And then you kind of, your student, hey, your student's been doing really well. You get them, I think, great. I'm really excited about what her capability is. I think she's going to do this great stuff. And, you know, and parents are like, I love those emails. I love them. Right. And to get it's so easy to write as a teacher. You don't have to send that many out. You send a few, and it's just catnip for parents. You know, oh, your daughter is such a delight to have in class, and I just see she's been progressing so well, and I've seen her overcome some of these obstacles, and I think she can do great in this program. And I'm just, you know, it does require consistent effort, and so you know, sometimes students will, you know, kind of fall off, and I may occasionally have to remind, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah. So the parents are like, they're in. They're like,
Mhm.
Justin's awesome. This guy's incredible, right? And so then when this girl like slacks off for a few days and you send name and say, you know, I'm a little disappointed because Monica didn't, you know, she's, I don't know, last a really rough couple days. She's been really distracted, but you know, and I understand not every kid has a great week. As humans, we just, you know, we need to get her back on because I don't want to fall too far behind. Because and the parents, oh yeah, yeah, right, right. They're like, sure, yeah, yeah, we're on it, right? We're on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, right. Because they will right if you establish that good relationship and communicate to them early about any problems that are kind of starting any way that the kid is starting to fall out off the rails, the parent will solve the problem for you outside of class. I can't tell you how many times the kid kind of like slacked off in class and I I emailed their parent just to say like, hey, just a heads up, so and so has more homework than usual today because they were they were not really completely focused in class, which it happens sometimes. But I just wanted to give you a heads up in case the kid has some more work today. But the good news is like last week there was a day that they just like were fully focused the entire day like their best friend wasn't there in class and so they just focused the entire time and they knocked out like 50 xp in 40
Because you're
minutes.
getting ahead of the kids'
Yeah,
spin. Because the kids are
yeah,
spinning this. You
yeah, yeah,
have a disinformation agent
exactly.
actively trying to counter all of your messaging, right?
Yeah,
It's like information war going on. And this 11-year-old or 15-year or whatever, they're like, well, you know, it wasn't fair, it was too hard, and I didn't and they come up with so much nonsense. And the parent, like, you kind of want to believe your kid, right? You're like,
yeah,
well,
yeah. Well, that's your default. Your kid is right unless you have very strong evidence to the contrary.
right. So, and I remember one thing I used to say to you, communicate early and often. You
Hmm.
almost cannot over communicate with parents. I mean, you probably could, but it would take, that's not going to be the error. The error is not going to be that you're sending 3 emails every day and the parents going to be, Jesus, guys, I get these wall of text emails from Justin 3 days. You're not going to do that. The error is you talk to them and then 2, 3 months go by and you don't talk to them and they're kind of out of the loop kid's falling off, and then you're like, well, this kid has spent the last 6 weeks doing nothing, and it's a whole problem, right?
Yeah.
It's like you want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
stitch in
Yeah. You
time is saved at nine, right?
can't let it grow to be that big of a problem. Because then if you do, then everyone just digs in their heel. Like the problem is just too big to accept that this is an actual problem. So everyone just wants to say like, no, you're crazy. Your expectations are way too high. This is not an actual problem. And so it makes it harder and harder to get things back on the rails, because now there's like a some momentum in being off the rails, and that's kind of the state of homeostasis. The kid is used to not doing a whole lot of work in class, like, whereas if you catch that at the beginning, get it early, communicate with parent like parent will catch the kid up that even, like, if there's only a deficit of like of 30 xp 40 xp, it's like, guess what, like parents are just going to make the kid do it that evening, and then the kid's going to come back, they're fine, they're like on the rails the next day, we're all good, we just maintain. But yeah, if the kid has racked up a deficit of like thousands of xp, thousands of minutes worth of learning that they didn't do, then it's just, yeah, you get into the position where, like, one thing I saw sometimes with teachers who did not do as good a job on keeping kids on the rails, is like the kids will come in at the end of the semester, they're like 2000 xp behind, or 3000 or whatever. It's like, again, like 1 xp 1 minute, 2000 3000 minutes, like you're not going to make that up in 1 week. Like if it's the last week of the semester, like, guess what? It's already too late. But they would lobby for some kind of like,
Parents, oh, can you just do this thing? And they always want to like
yeah,
makeup's on the makeup, and they're,
what if I do
you know,
500 XP this week, 100 XP every single day? Can I get an A in the course? And it's like, well, I appreciate the effort, but like you have 3000 XP to make up. 500 XP, you're going to learn a sixth of what you were supposed to learn. So it's just, once things get to be that bad, it just becomes a bad explosive situation that the solution is just don't let it get into that state, because that's,
yeah,
you never win.
yeah. The thing is that parents have, because of the accessibility of teachers, that they are a text or an email away, right? Parents have become much more involved in this process. So like when I was in high school, you got a progress report maybe, and I don't even think high school, I'm thinking of progress reports. You just got your semester or quarter grades. You got a B, got a B minus, you got a B plus, whatever it was. Hey, it's like that was it. There's no negotiating. There's no nothing. That was it. We didn't have makeup tests. You got to see, man. But I think what happened is, it's a combination of helicopter parenting and all this. There's a lot of sort of cultural changes that have taken place over the last 30, 40 years. But one of them had to do, I think, with parents being able to have direct access to teachers. When I was in high school, teachers didn't meet with parents ever. And so there was no, but now, because since parents can lobby and make parents' lives really make teachers' lives difficult. If I say this the right way. So since parents can easily lobby through a barrage of emails and texts, make and send emails to the teacher, to the principal, to the whatever, and then just make everything really painful. The parents are acting like an agent. It's like a sports agent, right? And they are just gonna, what they want, a lot of them want is their student to do. They want to feel like they're learning, but they want less work because they don't want the stress of their kid having to do a lot of work, and they want to be able to have family time and all that, which is understandable. And they want the kid to have like great grades so they can go to whatever college they want to go to, right? But they also want their kids to learn a lot, but they don't want their kids to do a lot of work, right? And kids
Yeah.
aren't going to do a lot of work, not going to learn much unless they put in a fair amount of work. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. You don't learn a lot by doing nothing or by just
Yeah,
spacing
yeah.
out class.
And it
You have
doesn't
to
have to be a ton of time. Just you have to be actually doing intense work for that short period of time.
You're reading Hamlet, you actually got to read Hamlet. You actually got to go and take notes and try and decipher passages, and it takes work. You don't just go
Yeah.
watch, you know, Mel Gibson's version of it on YouTube or something and be like, oh, no, you actually got to do work. So, but parents, they, you know, if they can, if they want to do less work, I want my life, I want there to be low stress at home, but I want my kid, I want my kid to be really educated, but I also want them to get great grades. Okay, well, the kids, there are some kids who like work really, really hard by default. Most of them don't. You know, there's the whole spectrum. And but anyway, the parents at the end of the day, once they realize that, oh my God, my kid's going to get a C, or is he going to get some B's when I thought they're going to get A's? And they're like, oh my God, this is really, they're not going to get to go to Harvard or whatever dream they had, you know? And so then they serve as this to lobby. They want to lobby the school. And so they do. And so that has helped lower the standards, I think, especially these private schools, right? Because we're paying 30, 40, 50, $60,000 a year and, you know, and my kid works really hard in this. So there's constant, and the superintendents and the head of school and stuff, they're like trying to keep the parents at bay, because that's what the pain for the schools, for the administration and the teachers are parents. P for pain, right? Pain. I remember asking, so I used to coach this men's soccer team for years, and all these guys who were these ex-college players, and a bunch of them would coach these sort of elite academy level club soccer teams, you know, under 12, under 14, under 16. And I'd be like, I'd ask him, like, how do you like that? Like, oh, it's great. The kids are great. He's like, but the parents are a nightmare. I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, why didn't my kid play left? They should play the right side. And why isn't they starting? And you said, you know, and it's just a constant lobbying from the parents. It just ruins the experience for the coach. The coach is trying to, and I'm not saying every coach makes good decisions or this is fair, or whatever, but it's the parents. The parents equal pain for coaches and teachers and administration. And so they're, knowing that that's where the pain's coming, they are trying to do everything they can to limit said pain. And a lot of the changes you see in the curriculum, well, there's no gifted class, accelerated classes. We don't do a lot of homework. We have makeup tests and makeups on the makeups, and we have all this stuff. Is to keep the agents, parents, from be lobbying and creating all this endless cycle of pain. And so then you get this situation you have now. And so the teachers are just like, whatever, man. I mean, just make it really easy. I mean, you taught at a very kind of a froofy, expensive public school that had a private school that had a bunch of a lot of parents worked in entertainment and Hollywood and the music industry, right? I mean, they're relatively famous parents, right?
Yeah, that's right. There were there were a couple well-known musical artists, like just people you'd recognize by name. Their parents or their kids went to the school, but
there were probably a lot more that were just like one notch down that you just didn't know about, that are just, oh wow, that's the guy who produced this, and she's the head of music and whatever, you know.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, there were a couple. There was one really big, probably like 80% of the USA knows their name.
Right.
But yeah, there was a whole spectrum. But yeah, I mean, it was a similar thing where, I mean, especially with these parents were very successful, right? But they didn't exactly make their success off of a straightforward academic discipline. It's not like you got a bunch of well-known authors or a bunch of mathematicians, or it's not like
people worked at the CDC or worked in technology. These are musicians. These are
software engineers. Like, it's not hardcore academic focused parents, right? So so it's kind of like, right, it gets to be that kind of like they want their kids to be set up for success, but they also don't really believe that much in the success of, like, in an academic sense. So it becomes
a direct correlation. Like, you get A's in all these AP classes means you're going to have a really successful career. Because I didn't do that. I dropped out of college. I went to community college for a year, went to some music school for a while, and then I kind of now I'm head of
Yeah.
licensing at, whatever music company, and I make $1 million
So
a year.
yeah, so basically it turns into they ultimately want their kid to get into a good college, form good professional connections in
Just
college.
status, just sort of
Yeah,
status in
right.
general.
Status, yeah, yeah, and but right, they don't really they, subject to the constraint that the kid gets into a good college. They want to minimize the amount of work to get there.
Yeah,
Generally,
what's
I
the
mean,
least amount?
there's
Because that's a headache for them, right?
yeah, there's many exceptions to the rule, but these exceptions prove the rule. Like 95% of the time, this is what you're up against. And it's
What?
kind of similar to just the whole it comes back to like if you let things drift off the rails for long enough, it just becomes an unsolvable problem later down the road. Once it's built up enough steam, like you get kids who come into Calc BC class
Mhm.
and they don't know what the sine of pi over 2 is. They have forgotten how to factor a quadratic, like not even like standard. Oh, I forgot the secant tangent identity for trig, or I forgot this. What's the rational roots theorem again? Or like the
Yeah, which is
pre-calculus.
understandable. Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
what
like
is the how's it working?
yeah, they're like way back. We forgot some basic algebra, really basic algebra. And oh, by the way, we didn't just forget that. We forgot everything that depends on it. We forgot all of exponents, all of logarithms. What's a logarithm again? I forget what that is. Like, it's like, geez, man. And so, right, it just becomes, well, in order to get these kids legitimately back on track, they're you can't do that in a 1 hour a day school class. Like you gotta you'd have to like make it a whole thing. They got tons of homework every night. By the way, the school, it didn't even have class 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. It was in this kind of like weird block schedule where I think like effectively you got maybe like 35 40 minutes of class per day on if you averaged it out, and then
Mm-hmm.
also subtracted out whatever like events, or there was a lot of that kind of
But did
stuff.
they do something like you couldn't grade homework, or they didn't do there was some limitations on what you could do,
Yeah,
or
well, it's like you can you can grade the homework provided that you don't assign a numeric grade. You can it was some like you had to break it into mastery standards,
mm-hmm.
that are very vague, nebulous things. You can't make a mastery standard too specific, and so it has to be in this vague. Like student can solve problems by reasoning mathematically using the structure of equations. Like what? Like you? How you gonna? It's just too vague. So it's hard to like enforce like a a real, but where is the standard for that? Well, that could mean anything from student is able to simplify trig identities to lever trig identities to solve difficult integrals, to student can solve a linear equation by noticing that you can combine like terms. Like what? It's just
What does that
anything.
even mean?
But yeah, so the standard is too vague, but also it's but it was like you couldn't ensure repeated practice too, because it's like once a student has demonstrated proficiency of a standard, how do you take that away from them? You can't really take that
Yeah,
away.
they're operating under the delusion that once you know something, you know forever. You don't forget it.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it's like, even like, okay, if you want to like seriously assign homework, force kids to do homework, you have to fight this whole battle on just on getting this homework mechanism in place. So yeah, it was one of I mean, yeah, I only taught for a year there.
Well, I
I was
remember
like,
you were just in
no.
shock at how little math your physics they didn't students knew. Like you had like a physics class, but most of them
Oh,
really struggled
yeah,
to solve simple linear equations, like in basic algebra,
yeah,
right? And you were
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I thought we were. I mean, I was told the kids had taken algebra before, which I guess was technically true. In some sense, they had technically signed up for a course that was technically called algebra, and they had technically received some kind of end of the year grade in it that got constituted passing. There's a lot of technicalities there that really either it wasn't actually algebra or the grades were not assigned properly or whatever. There's the end result was you got kids, they didn't know how to work with quadratic equations, they didn't know how to factor a quadratic, they had to be retaught how to use the quadratic formula, and even then it took several days to reteach this wasn't just a reminder, like, remember last
almost
year
like
when
they'd
you
never
did the
seen it before. They're like, what is
yeah, it
this?
was almost like that. They'd either never seen it before or they had maybe seen it like once or twice and not seen it for a year since. So like effectively they had never they had forgotten it to the point that it just had to be like retaught from scratch. And even stuff like linear equations was I had to reteach some of that. What happens if the variable is on both sides of the equation? Like, this is a high school physics class after algebra. So anyway, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was not good. Um, so yeah, we basically just checked a few boxes on some algebra, some easy algebra based physics, just like
They
just
throw
plug
the
this
physics
into
for
some
poets. You're like, what
formula,
can I do here? And I
do a
see,
little lab. Yeah,
yeah, and I think a lot of teachers, well-meaning teachers who are doing their want to do their best, who are optimistic about the capability of students, they're in a situation that's just like a no-win situation. I mean, you're in a no-win situation. That kids come in, they don't have the prerequisite knowledge that they should absolutely have. They don't aren't there is no enforcement or expectation of the enforcement of reasonable standards, homework, grades, grading, and so you get this thing happening where it's like, they talk about like AI slop. It's like you get education slop, right? It's just you get all this thing. It's called education, right? But the kids haven't learned anything. They have no or very little in the way of demonstrable skills that
yeah.
anyone would
Everything's on paper. Not that but you ask a kid to perform the skill in front of you. Like, do you actually have the skill? No. It's like it's optimizing for the paper communication of these
it's all
skills. The stuff that
credentialism.
colleges will
You have
see.
this GPA, you went to this school, you have this degree, and we're all finding out that the emperor has no clothes, that a lot of these people don't know much of anything. And if they had, they'd forgotten it. It's really bad. And teachers will teachers who care, well, they'll sometimes give it up. They're like, yeah, it's kind of a joke. I mean, you have some individual teachers who are really good and are trying to overcome this situation in their local vicinity of what they have control over. Maybe you get someone who's head of their little math or science department in some high school, and they're like, look, we're going to really push these kids starting in ninth grade. I'm going to get them up because they need to be able to do this stuff, and we're going to take this seriously. But it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of
Yeah.
effort, and they don't get paid anymore for doing it,
There's
right?
really no incentive other than them not to have to deal with like it's kind of just keeping their own house clean so that they don't end up in a situation where they have kids taking their calculus course can't pass the AP exam because they don't know their algebra. But beyond that, it's just, yeah, there's really no incentive.
Yeah, I mean, why you got to fight with parents? You got to fight with the kids. You're going to fight with the principal. Everybody's like, "Whoa, why are you making everybody do extra work? And this is all too much." And we have policies against grading, and it's a nightmare. I mean, my daughter, who's a senior in high school at Pasadena High School, and like a lot of her classes, they don't grade homework. They don't grade it. I mean, I remember
Yeah,
when
I
she was
remember.
in ninth.
I remember you asked me to like just sit down a couple of years ago, back when I was in Pasadena,
She was
and
a
she was
freshman
like,
in high school.
yeah, yeah, and I think she was
Taking
taking
because she
physics.
was more advanced in math, she was taking AP Physics.
Yeah,
And I wasn't seeing her do a whole lot of work. I wasn't hearing much what was going on. I know physics is really hard, and I was just like, and you're a physics guy. You did a lot of physics in high school and stuff. You were thinking that was the direction you wanted to go and was physics until you went into math. So
Mhm.
I knew, and I took one year of physics in college, and kind of, it wasn't something I kept up with. So I was like, all right, Justin, can you like sit down and tutor for an hour? I'll pay you, whatever. But just, you're like, yeah, okay, and continue.
Yeah, well, it was amazing because I asked her like, okay, so what homework problems are we doing, and what did you, or what problems did you get wrong last time or whatever? And she was just like, well, it's not graded, so I don't know. And I was like, what do you mean it's not graded? Like we're just doing problems that are, there's no point. You just, like, we might as well just write down some gibberish on a, so some just like math slop on a piece of paper and just upload that, and that's, there you go, get your completion grade. And so the problem is, if nobody's checking the homework, how's the kid going to learn? Because the kid doesn't know how to do these problems correctly. The parents almost certainly don't know how to do these problems correctly. Well, you depend on it. Like the only kids that get through are the kids who have somebody in their life, or whose parents can bring in somebody into their life who can effectively do what the teacher is
Or
supposed to
they're
be
at the
doing.
99th percentile. They're
You're
just
right. Yeah.
super high aptitude and they're really into it. And so they're going to all these extra resources because they're a physics nerd or whatever. And they're just going and watching videos and doing this extra stuff because this is what they want to do. But that's the 1 out of 100 kid, maybe. Everyone
Yeah.
else is like, I don't know what's going on. Right. And you have a couple
Yeah.
of kids who are drafting off that one kid. He's helping his or she's helping her little few couple friends,
Yeah.
and they're kind of figuring it out, but everybody else is just like, what's
Yeah,
happening?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And eventually it gets, or actually very quickly, it gets just so out of hand that even if you had a tutor sit with the kid and help them work through the homework problems, they wouldn't get a whole lot out of it because the problems are now so far ahead of their ability. We're asking them to do situations like block rolls down a wedge with friction and some other pulley force or whatever, and they don't even know how to do this under frictionless, pulley-less, just gravity. Like how long until it hits the bottom? They don't have their component skills, and so you're basically like, it's almost like their homework. They can't. Their homework is to do a double backflip. Kid doesn't even know how to do a single backflip. They don't even know how to like tuck their legs when they jump. That's where you're at. And so but what you have to do is you have to like have somehow get video evidence of them doing a double backflip or something. Well, actually, you don't even need video. You just need, because it's only graded on completion, right? You don't have to get it right. So you just have to like film them doing like a double backflip attempt. Who cares if it lands properly or not? And then we'll just check the box, say that they learned double backflip. Meanwhile, they can't even do a single.
Yeah, because the teacher's like, the administration will, did you get everyone through this unit? Yes, everybody got through this unit. We did this. Check. All right, now give me my paycheck. Right?
Yeah.
My checks for paychecks. Right?
Again, it's just too, it's so vague. What does it mean to get through a unit? Well, we're gonna, with the forces that we've talked about, the incentives at play, what's going to happen is the amount of work and effort is going to be reduced, subject to like that you can argue under some technicality that they have gotten through the unit, even if that means just having heard the material communicated to them in class, not understood it, not able to solve problems to it, or whatever. We have read this section of the book in class. Like,
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, so I think parents are not aware of actually how little their kids are learning. Whatever you think your kids are learning, in most cases, they're learning a lot less. They know less, they're doing less work, they have less skill, fewer skills, less understanding. It's bad. Especially things in math and physics and stuff like that. Now, stuff is like, well, how's their American history course or how's their French class? Like, Yeah, it's less important. It's easier to be just kind of like, all right, we talked about, the Constitution or something. We talked about the Revolutionary War, and you're like, all right, you know, any of your parent, you might talk to them about who. Well, tell me, what was the Boston Tea Party or something? It's like it's not that important.
Yeah, it's just
But
it's less foundational for other skills that you might need to do, and also it's less of a hierarchy. Where it's like if you
mm,
fall behind on the history of one country, and we move on to the history of another country, like okay, you just start with the history of this new country.
yeah, if
Like
you
it's
forgot
not.
about what happened in Sparta and Athens, like it doesn't really affect, the Renaissance. It's like I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
who was
yeah.
Sparta
Whereas in
again? Was
math,
Sparta the
like
one that was the warrior one, or was that Ithaca, or I don't know. Like, no, I mean,
yeah,
it'd be great if you knew it, but it's not gonna. And your parents probably don't remember it, and it's not going to affect, you're doing the unit on the Enlightenment or something. But math, physics, things like that, yeah, it's a real problem. So, but the problem and the thing of math and physics and all this stuff is it just takes a lot of hard, consistent work to keep making progress. It's just that the standards have to be higher, they have to be more rigorous, they have to be quantitative. Um, that's just is. And if you're not going to do it and you're going to make everything mushy and fluffy, and we're just going to have group discussions and we're going to do projects and we're going to progressing towards standards, then guess what? Everybody's going to do less work, kids, teachers, everybody. And at the end of the day, people come out and, nobody knows anything other than like that one, two kids who were sort of mostly self-taught. And, you know, that's it. That's how it rolls. So let's maybe switch gears. Talk. Is there anything else we want to get into other than school stuff? You want to
I can go down the list of. Do you want to do
yeah,
more
let's
or
let's let's see what else. Let's see what else we got. What give me
okay?
let's see what other topic
Yeah,
we got.
let me just read out several things, and
Okay.
you can
Okay.
whatever sounds good to you.
Mhm.
So there's still the gravity stuff. There's how to get kids on the rails, incentives, um, how to foster independence in kids, how the relationship of holding a kid accountable changes as a kid ages, um, more about the
You know what I
Risco
want to talk
program.
about? I kind of talk about. I want to hear about because you were that 1% kid or the
Yeah.
0.1% kid or something. I mean, you
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
you at some point you took it upon yourself to go through like some significant portion of the MIT's open courseware, OCW. And they posted what that is they for a bunch of their classes, they posted the lecture notes, problem sets, answers to problem sets, midterms and finals, and videos for a bunch of the classes. You're totally on your own, but if you wanted to, you could kind of in theory do this stuff. Now, it wasn't for every class, and the quality of the materials, I think, for some of the classes were much better than others. But there was a lot of stuff posted. So, why don't you give a little overview of what that is,
Yeah.
how you get started, and what that looked like? Because that was really impressive that you did that, and it'd be
Yeah.
interesting
Sure.
story to hear.
So, yeah, how did this start? Well, um, this started my sophomore year of high school. Um, the or yeah, the summer of my sophomore year in high school. So I had always like I'd always kind of been like into math. I liked math, and like in middle school I did like math counts or whatever, but I didn't really take it seriously. Like I
You were
was
like 2 years ahead in math, right?
yeah,
Like
I was on like the just the standard, the most advanced track that's like an actual track.
geometry
um,
in eighth grade, I think you said,
yeah,
right?
yeah, geometry in eighth grade, algebra two in ninth grade, um, and well, the school made me take geometry again in 10th grade, even though I had already taken it, and I had to do like a crap ton of lobbying to get into pre-calculus.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
I can well just briefly what ended up happening. Like I had to like basically say like come on, guys, I've already taken geometry.
Hmm.
Why do I need to take it again? Okay, fine, I'll take it again, but can you let me take pre-calculus? And then so the the instructor actually or one of the head of the math department. I was talking with him about it, and he gave me his notes for the class on or it was like trigonometry or something. Like it was like trig and pre-calc combined or whatever. There's some integrated course, but I thought he was giving this to me as like here's what you need to spin up on for a pre-calculus. Like let's talk more after you look at this. And so what I did is I solved as many problems as I could in there over the span of like 2 days. And so I got like there's this booklet of like 100 pages, big workbook. I got maybe to like page 50 or something, page 60, and like each page has like a bunch of problems. So probably did maybe on the order of like 300, 400 problems over these 2 days. Yeah, I went like completely. I was taking this packet around with me to every single class and just doing it in class instead of whatever subject, because
Sit in
I'm
health
like,
class and music
yeah,
class.
exactly,
Like,
exactly. And so I
yeah.
learned he actually tracked me down at my last period class on the second day that I had
Like,
this
hey kid, where are
booklet.
my notes?
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't realize that this was his one copy of class notes, and he was trying to teach class with it. And he was like, "Where are the notes?" I thought, "Oh wait, I gave them to Justin. Why didn't Justin give me back the notes?" So he was so confused. And so the problem was like, I had written in pencil all over these notes. He's supposed to make photocopies of this for like for the kids to do for their homework. I don't know what he did the previous day.
Oh,
Maybe he was just like, "Oh
oh.
crap, I don't know where they are. I guess no homework today." But like, but yeah, so he got it back. He had to go and erase like all the stuff that I had written down, and I think through that he realized that I was doing at least most of the problems correctly, and that I didn't just say that I worked through a lot of it, like that I actually put the work in, and then I was
Yeah, because he had to
willing
erase
to do
every
that.
one. He's like, damn
Yeah,
it.
yeah, he had to go like erase like 50 pages.
F and Justin.
Yeah, either that or like I don't know if he had some other source where he could reprint it
Damn
out
kid.
again.
Damn
But
kids ruined my life.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. But it seemed like he was kind of annoyed initially. But yeah, so then I got into that pre-calc class my sophomore year. After all that, after and keep this is not like I'm me arguing to get a year ahead. This is me saying like I already took geometry in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Do I really have to take it again? And I did have to take it again. They still made me take it again, but at least I got to
And you went
take
to
it
a
more.
parochial, like it was like a Catholic school or something.
Yeah, it was a private school. My parents sent me to I went to public elementary and middle school, but my dad wanted to send me to a good high school, like
Mm,
a yeah private high school, just
right.
for superior quality of education, supposedly.
Right. Taking geometry again in 10th grade.
So what the thing I noticed, okay, we'll get back to the original question you asked shortly,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing I noticed was, um, so the private school, it actually, if you took the mean student of the local public school versus the private school mean student is going to have better stats on their ACT and SAT,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the spread of this distribution, um, in the public
Mm-hmm.
school, they have way, way, way more kids, and way, way, way more kids who are kind of in a more similar situation to me, where they're just like really pressing on, like they're far away, they're outliers. In the private school, there's so few students that these kids look like major outliers. They're like, this isn't even part of the distribution. Like, what do you mean? This kid doesn't
We can just
exist. I
pretend it
refuse to
doesn't
believe it.
exist. It's an anomaly. It's not
Yeah.
real.
In the public
Eliminate it.
school, they are, they're still way, way off on the spectrum, but at least they're part of the long tail.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that there are some of these crazy kids
Yeah,
who are
both
just
ends. You had
love
your
this stuff.
super low performers, and then you got super high performers.
Yeah.
And like we got to have like AP classes and things, and we have to have some program where some of these kids can take classes at the local community college or something,
Yeah.
right? If you have, especially if it's a sizable high school of like 1,500, 2,000 kids, there's gonna be some of those kids. right?
Yeah, yeah,
Parochial school, it's like
exactly.
we got 300 kids in the high school or something. It's like, well,
Yeah,
if I,
still a tiny proportion, but there's a large enough absolute number of them that's greater than one that there's actually a little bit more support for them. Um,
yeah.
but oh yeah, it was just kind of funny because like it's like ironically like okay, you pay more to send kid to the private school. The private school has higher average stats. You think it's a better quality of education for an outlier kid. Like it actually is like way way worse. It's like the public school. So my yeah,
Well,
it
one
was
thing I
kind
want to say too, some of
of
the private schools around here, I know that like Poly and Western, it's like they're really good schools, but they don't like kids that are too far ahead. They don't want weak students. They want strong students who are in that range, right? So the top, the 1%er, the 0.1%, they just like they can't deal with these kids. It's because it's a headache, right? Headache. Like what do we do with this kid? They took kid to calculus in 10th grade. What are we supposed to do with them in 11th, 12th? It's not like public school. We don't want to send them off. They go take in private school. They don't want feel like you have to go to junior college to take classes because the private school can't handle it, right? They can't facilitate their learning. And how much am I paying you guys? Okay, public school, it's like there's no less ego about it than there is in a private school, right?
mhm,
And so it was just such an interesting thing I had heard about that they because we'd have math academy kids coming out of 8th grade having taken AP Calculus BC, and some of the parents, like your parents, were like, "Well, I want them to go to its private school. We've been planning them to go in private school their entire childhood." It was like, and even if math cat be like, "Oh, we really like math cat has been amazing," and yeah, I think it's still disappointing that they can't continue in the high school program, but we want them to go to Poly or Westwood or Sequoia or one of these, expensive, very selective private schools. But then the school's like, what are we supposed to do with this kid? This is the
mhm,
headache, right? This is a major headache. Okay, 1 year ahead, definitely. We have kids 1 year. 2 years ahead, fine, maybe we'll do that because then they can take a, but they don't want to do it. It's just a headache. They don't want to deal with it. It's just they don't want to deal with it, and so they won't. They just sort of turn those kids down. Anyway,
yeah,
so can you
exactly.
continue our story, please? Because that was
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so took pre-calc and geometry sophomore year. After that, um, next course is going to be calculus.
mhm.
And so this was kind of getting into the point of like, I'd always kind of been interested in physics and black holes and stuff, astrophysics. Kind of makes for cool visualizations. You watch
Right.
the History Channel documentary on it, you're just like thinking about space and stuff. And I knew that calculus is, I mean, I didn't understand calculus at that point, but I knew that like I knew enough around the subject to know
Enough
that it
there's big
underpinned.
S's and there's dy
So
dx's to know that stuff is important.
yeah, yeah, because you see that all the time in physics books and whatever, and then like all these History Channel documentaries on physics. It's like when they're just showing like math equations, just like for
Mhm.
effect. There's always a bunch of these big S's, like the dy, dx, like whatever. What is that? Well, whatever this calculus thing is, it. I guess it must be important. And so I just decided that summer that I was going to try to learn it on my own,
Mhm.
because it just got so it was just cool. It had the cool factor, and like it was also the thing, and we were like in every movie where like you. When you hear that some movie character is a genius, the way that they often communicate it is that like so and so took calculus, like knows advanced calculus, or what like from the public perception, calculus is synonymous with like, super advanced math. And so I was like, okay, this is really cool. I can't believe I'm already here. I'm going to try to just teach myself over the summer because I just can't wait. And so that's how I got into like these online learning resources.
Mhm.
And so I guess I kind of started to get an inkling of this back when I was solving those trig problems, getting through a high
Mm-hmm.
volume in one day. But self study turned out to be so much more efficient than I was used to at school, and it was just like I thought it was going to take me the whole summer to learn calculus. It took maybe a month, um,
Well, that's
and
super fast.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was, I mean, once I got to
Well,
like,
you already demonstrated they do 300 or 400 problems in 2 days.
yeah,
So, okay, if you're doing it that rate, that's like, I'm doing 300, 400 XP a day. It's like, okay,
yeah,
or more.
yeah,
I'm doing 500
exactly.
XP a day.
Yeah,
Like, oh, wow.
I was holed up in my room, like, and especially once I got to like optimization and related rates and like basic differential equations and stuff, like I was just, it was more than just like this is like cool from public perception, but like this is just like so interesting to me because it was I guess it was like it felt like my first experience of being able to use math as a weapon to open up just a can of
Like a
whoop
power
ass on
tool. It's like a
whatever
power
modeling
tool.
problem I
Yeah.
want to. It's like suddenly I got this like this Jedi lightsaber. I'm just like swinging it around, destroying all these modeling problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I just like holed up in my room, just working out math problems. It was like it was almost like playing a video game. Except see the thing is like I was also kind of big into video games in middle school and early on in high school. And I mean my parents never thought that was like I mean they were fine with it, but they were like, whenever I would be playing for like too long, they'd just be like, why don't you like go outside or like just do something productive? Um, but with math, with the calculus stuff, it felt like playing a video game. Except the longer I played, the more proud my parents were of me for working so hard. So it's like
Hmm.
I got unlimited video game hours by doing this math.
What is your mom? So your mom, she went to art school.
Yeah.
So she's like, what are you doing? I mean, what is what
Oh
was her
well,
reaction?
I mean, my parents didn't
Remember?
really. Actually, they didn't ask me a whole lot about it, at least that I can remember. They were just like, "Oh yeah, Justin's prepping for the next school year. Like, good for
Kids
him. I'm
do that
glad
all
he's
the
like
time,
taking
right? But,
his academics seriously."
I
Like, I mean,
said,
they knew I was into like they know I was a serious student and everything, getting straight A's and everything. But it I think it took some time for them to understand the caliber of what I was doing
Mhm.
there. It's like it's almost like they think the kid's playing with like a some kind of some simple chemistry set like let's let's make
Make a dye, make a color.
yeah, make a die or whatever. And actually, the kid is building fireworks or something. It was just
Right.
so uh, order of magnitude different. So anyway, yeah. So I was holed up in my room, and so after calculus, I finished calculus in like what like 4 weeks or something like that, and I was like, wow,
That was
it's
hard.
still summer. It's like I still have lots of time. So I was, and also this whole thing, this whole experience was just so mind blowing to me because it was like I didn't understand how slowly we were moving at school. I mean, I knew we could be moving faster by doing more work, but I didn't understand until that point just the level of inefficiency that is happening at school. Like I was always blowing through the homework really fast um, in class and mostly just sitting around being like called up to the board to work problems for the class and it was just
Mhm.
I mean on one hand it was kind of fun being I mean I kind of got a reputation for being a freshman who is like showing up all these the smartest junior in
Right.
like in whatever algebra 2 class but it was also just I was not working at the forefront of my ability and so yeah so I didn't realize how fast I could have been moving so
Quick
so
question. Quick
yeah
question. What materials or book were you using to teach yourself calculus?
So calculus. So actually, the single variable calculus course, um, it was not on MIT OpenCourseWare. Everything else was on MIT OpenCourseWare, but the very first calculus course that I took, it was some like kind of it doesn't exist anymore as far as I know. I can't even remember the name of it. I tried to look it up like a year or two ago. I spent like hours trying to Google for it, just see if I could just uncover what it was. But I can kind of describe it a little bit. It was almost like a textbook, but it was arranged in slides of information. Like you read a slide, you have like 10 practice problems, and you solve those 10 practice problems, and then it checks it checks each problem for you, and says whether you did it correctly. There's not a
It was
whole
the
lot of
Math
explanation.
Academy before Math Academy.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was
What the
like it
hell?
was it was
That's the first time I've heard this story. That's
yeah.
crazy. So a couple slides, they do 10 problems. They check. What? The only thing
It
it didn't
wasn't
do is say,
adaptive.
well, you got it, so you can skip these problems and move on. But that's crazy.
Yeah. So it wasn't adaptive. It didn't force you to do the problems. You
Mhm.
could click ahead,
Right.
and if you got the problems wrong, like whatever, it was just like it really was just a textbook, just like kind of cut up into like problems interspersed. And there were some
Yeah.
videos
Proto
and
Math
whatever.
Academy, right? Proto Math Academy, right? Real
Yeah,
basic.
something like that. And it's so weird because I this thing doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what it was, but I can't find it anywhere.
Well, you know what you could do
Um,
is you could go on the web archive to the year that you did this and search for a name, and maybe it'll show up on the web archive.
See, I don't even remember the name of it though. That's the
Uh,
problem. Like I didn't at the time. I didn't know that this was going to be like such a big deal. So I didn't bother like writing down like
mm,
any
yeah,
of this. It's just like a fuzzy memory from like a decade
yeah.
ago. Um, I don't know, but yeah, I'll try and see if I can dig up any other information. But they
Yeah, it
had
would be
something like
interesting. It would be interesting for you to do a little bit of archaeology on this and say this was my sort of proto math academy.
yeah,
This is what it did for me, and you could kind of and then kind of have some screenshots of it, right? There'd be people would probably find that pretty cool.
yeah.
If you could. I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah,
it might
yeah,
not be
yeah.
big
I
enough.
mean, yeah, I'll try. Let me just say everything off the top of my head
Mhm.
that I remember about it, just just in case anyone else knows what I'm talking about, and also just so that I can take this transcript and feed it into an LLM to just see if it knows anything. But like,
Mhm.
so it didn't have any other advanced math. It didn't. I don't even think it. I don't recall it having any simpler math either. I think it was just for like AP classes. Because
Mhm.
I remember I mean, at this point, I when I was initially the first couple of weeks, in addition to studying calculus beforehand, I was also just trying to like, I was also partially just trying to get a leg up on the upcoming school year and learn AP US history beforehand
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So I know they had an AP US history course as well on there, and again by course I don't mean it was interactive or
Yeah, it was just the
or
slide.
anything,
Well,
but
okay, was it
the
AP
slide.
calculus or just like calculus, calc 1 or
No, it was
introduction?
AP. It was AP calculus,
AB or BC?
BC.
Okay, so AP
Um,
calculus BC, right. Okay, so it says AP
yeah,
calculus courses.
yeah, and an AP US history. This is kind of coming back to me now. It's like this is funny. It's like recovering a memory. Yeah, I didn't even realize that this was so similar to Math Academy. I'd kind of forgotten even that I did this sort of thing before MIT OpenCourseWare. Um, okay,
We're
what?
gonna give you like regression hypnosis or something
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
hypnotize you on the podcast.
yeah. That's what we need.
Okay.
Yeah, there were also. I know there were some other courses. I can't remember what they. Okay, I think they may have had like a AP World History as well. I don't think they had an AP Physics because if they did have that, I'm pretty sure I would have been interested in that
Okay.
as well. Um,
Was it like a school or like a that was hosting it, or was it like a something else?
I I don't know. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I don't think it was on a school webpage
Can
or
you think of
anything.
what the name of it might have been? What's name pops in your head, or the URL, the name of it? Can you?
Um,
I'm hypnotizing you. What do you see, Justin, in your head? Close your eyes. What are you seeing in that
yeah,
address
the name.
bar?
I don't think I'm going to be able to
Look
recover the
harder,
name.
Justin. What are
Just
you
don't
seeing?
know. But okay, the format was like it was like this. It was not a standard web page. It was almost like a square box, sort of. And the even the text and stuff in the box, it was not like I don't think it was like copy and pasteable. It's like it wasn't like part of the HTML. It was like some other like it was some widget in there.
Like Java.
Yeah,
Like, was
something
it
like
Java
that.
or like it could have been like I think a Macromedia or Adobe had like a courseware thing. They could have used like Adobe or Macromedia's courseware to create it, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, probably
Or like
something
a
like that.
FileMaker Pro, something they exported it online or something like that. It's old
I
'90s
think
software.
there were quite a few videos. Um,
I'll bet you
yeah,
I could be wrong, but I'll bet you it was something like it was either Adobe or Macromedia or something had something called courseware. I think it was the name of the product. I don't know if it's still around. And it would allow you to probably organize and structure, which is probably why it was structured in slides and problems and videos, right?
yeah,
So you could just go in and be like, all right, create a module, okay? And somebody was
yeah,
cutting and pasting from their notes or from textbooks and some videos, and they put together this thing. So anyway,
yeah. That's
okay,
probably what it was.
well, maybe you'll come to something.
Yeah,
Later, but let's go into the open courseware real quick.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so after calculus, single variable calculus, then I just like okay, I was just so hooked on this because I mean there was all these things that was like it almost felt like you know in the Harry Potter where like Harry learns that he's like a wizard or something and like,
Hmm.
that there's this whole Hogwarts school and everything and
Right.
it's just so
That was your
like
moment.
there was there was some pieces of like weird shit that had happened to him in the past where it was like he had like talked to a snake or whatever and he was like not even sure if that was real but there were some indications but then all of a sudden it came to a head and then he's like holy shit like the glass just shattered um so this was kind of what I was experiencing at that point. I'm like holy shit I can learn way faster than I can just sitting in class in school. I can do it myself. I can do it with online resources or just even probably just books would have worked because that's basically what the online resources were. They were just like books with videos essentially, um, and 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 it was also just like really cool. It, it was almost like I found a new video game. Calculus, it just felt like a video game. It was the best video game that I had ever played because, like, just there's like infinite, like this climbing up this math ladder. There's just like infinite progression. There's no beating the game and having to go on to a new one.
The infinite game of math.
It's
Yeah.
the infinite game, and like everything that you do in this game, you can take with you later in life. This is a game that actually matters, and it's a game that your parents are actually really like they're proud of you for spending 8 hours just holed up in your room playing this
You're
game.
playing 8 hours playing Eve Online or EverQuest or World of
Yeah, yeah,
Warcraft. They're like,
exactly.
what are you doing? Like, well, I'm in my guild. And they're like, what? Get outside. This is
Yeah, yeah,
terrible.
exactly, exactly. And everybody's super impressed when you come out and you're like, wow, like my kid taught himself calculus over the summer, and like it's just it's so funny how similar it is to just like my kid spent the summer playing 8 hours a day of Call of Duty, and
Like,
she,
you're not telling people that unless you're just complaining. Like, my kid only plays Call of Duty. I don't know. I'm worried
yeah,
he's
yeah,
becoming too
exactly.
deranged. What do we do about this? Is the
Yeah,
opposite.
yeah, right. It's seen as a problem, but you just change it to like calculus or math, and suddenly it's like the perception just does a complete 180. but the experience is the basically the same.
Yeah.
So
You were
yeah,
having
so
more
okay,
fun. It
so
was
I
more
was hooked on
fun.
this. I'm
It
like,
was more
I,
fun than playing Call of Duty or EVE
yeah,
Online.
yeah. So I beat the calculus game basically, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing next? Like I'm like full on addicted at this point. I'm just like, I can't make it through the summer without more math. Like, what am I gonna do? Like not do math the rest of summer? Like that sounds terrible. So I'm like,
What am I
okay,
gonna go to pool and swim with my friends? I'm not gonna do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's terrible.
yeah,
That's boring.
exactly. It's like can't even bring scratch paper there. I'll just get wet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I that's when I went to MIT OpenCourseWare, because I was like, okay, well, I know after this is university level math. Where do I learn university level math? And it was like, so part of the reason that I went to MIT OpenCourseWare is it was not just because it had these courses on it, but it also had a clear like progression. I'm like, okay, this is a 100 level course. This is a 200 level course. This course has those courses as prerequisites. So it was like I could get a sense of the skill tree. So I found out that linear algebra and multivariable calculus are the two courses that you take after single variable calculus. So I just went on and started with those, and and I actually got through like most most of them during the rest of summer. And once school started up again in the fall, I was just like, I was not about to just stop this and go back to just normal going to class, sitting there
Yeah.
while the teacher waits. I'm like, screw this. I'm doing self-study in school. My school hours, I'm gonna be self-studying as much as I can. I'm gonna print out materials. I'm gonna sneak an iPad into class if I need to. I actually did that for 1 year. This was like a no technology allowed in class. You get a detention for bringing a phone or something.
You're going to detention for teaching yourself linear algebra. That would be a first.
Yeah. So eventually, yeah, this was a little later on once I realized how much I could get away with as the smart kid in school.
All
Like,
right.
um,
The teacher's not worth her trouble. It's like, Justin, what are you doing with that? They just, whatever.
yeah. And so I would also like, I wouldn't be like obviously out with it. I would like have my stack of books arranged, have a little paper covering it. Like
It was kind of a don't ask, don't tell
exactly. Don't ask, don't tell. And so the
self-education
teachers would
program.
get like a suspicion, like, okay, Justin is never looking up. He's always like writing something or looking like he's reading something. But the thing is, I would keep a general sense of what's going on in class. So I would like, because I knew if the teacher calls on me and I'm just like, what are we talking about? They're going to be like, okay, Justin, what are you doing? But if I can actually respond like with a decent answer to whatever question they have, it doesn't have to be my highest effort best answer, but it has to be just something that's like, okay, kids paying attention, even though they don't look like it. Then I can continue
Because you
doing what
always
I'm
have those
doing.
kids that are to doodle and draw,
Mm-hmm.
and teachers like, whatever.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So I would kind of kind of keep an ear out for like anytime the teacher is asking questions or anytime there's a risk of me being called on, and just make sure I'm kind of prepared for that. But other than that, all the other time I'm just I've got my educational resources, my papers that I printed out, or my iPad for reading this PDF of a book, and so I'm just going through doing this like 8 hours a day at school. Probably 6 of those 8 hours were dedicated to this math self study every single day. And
Wow,
yeah,
that's
so
a
I
lot.
got through linear algebra, multivariable calculus. Um, I got through like the first semester of physics, like calculus based physics, mechanics. I got through like I think like half of electricity or most of electricity and magnetism. It was more than half, maybe like three quarters. I got through like basically up until however much you need to know for like the AP exam, which was not like the full MIT course,
Yeah.
but it was most of it. Um, and also did differential equations. Um, I think like maybe 2/3 of that, and maybe half of real analysis. And I also got an abstract algebra book, and I did group theory. I didn't go on to like ring theory and field theory, but I did group theory.
But that
Oh,
was
I
not
also did
open course. But that
probability
was
and
not open
statistics.
courseware.
Sorry.
That was not open courseware. The abstract algebra you said you got, that was the one you got a book for.
Yeah. Well, okay. So at some point it kind of turned into the open courseware courses were really they were pretty solidly built out for like linear algebra and multivariable calculus.
The
There
sophomore
were
level
plenty of
stuff, right?
problems and
Yeah.
videos,
Yeah.
and for the freshman physics, and yeah, the physics open courseware course is the one with Professor Walter Lewin. He's like that famous. Do you know that guy?
I don't.
He's got all
No.
these like cool physics demonstrations that he does.
Oh, yeah, he's famous for that, right? Yeah, okay, I know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He would like his thing was like he would always like put his life on the line for physics. He would do a like, pendulum experiment where he has some big pendulum with a big like bowling ball on it, and he's gonna take it to one side of the room, let it go, and it's gonna swing back at him after it completes a cycle, and he's not gonna flinch. He's just gonna stay there, and it's gonna come within like a centimeter of smashing his face in. And
No.
yeah, so he would do all those things, and anyway, so that was like on the right. That was like on the. I would watch the lectures for these and do the problems. But for the higher level courses beyond that, it just got like thinner and thinner. Like you get to an abstract algebra course or real analysis course, and it's like basically what they have on open course, or at the time, I think it's built out more now, but at the time when I was using it, like 2012 or whatever, was it would just list the textbook that they use, and maybe have a copy of some
Syllabus.
midterm and a final, or a couple problem sets if you're lucky, or something like
Yeah.
that, or
Yeah.
some like scratched lecture notes or whatever. But it got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't really use MIT OpenCourseWare anymore. I just use it to point me to what courses are realistic to take next, and what are the books that they use, and then I go directly to the
What are the
books.
expectations? Like, what are you supposed to learn out of what's covered, essentially? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually printed out um yeah Tom Apostle analysis book,
Yeah,
and
possible.
I forget what it might just be called analysis. I can't remember the name of it, but it was
He's
Apostle.
a Caltech
Um,
professor, right?
yeah, and and so I would take that with me to school then. Yeah, and I just worked through.
What abstract algebra book did you use? Do you remember? Who was the author?
Uh, yeah, I don't remember. I'd
Okay.
I'd have to look that up. I would probably know it if I saw it, if I went through like some of the common
Yeah.
ones, but I don't know off the
Mhm.
top of my head.
Right.
But
Like
I should say one
Hurston
thing
and
I
Fraley and Gilleen or something. And I remember the honors one we did, which was, well, let's see, we did Hungerford, which was the graduate text and mathematics, which is just
yeah,
brutal for a first year abstract algebra course. I probably didn't use that one, but yeah, okay.
yeah.
So keep going. So you were
Well,
using books at that point, yeah.
yeah, I was using books, but I like in hindsight, I did make the mistake that pretty much every ambitious math learner makes, which is to go to materials that are just too advanced. And so like Apostle, I mean that was like the honors calculus at MIT, or
Mhm.
not, sorry, not calculus, honors analysis at MIT, and and so it's just very very dry and abstract, and so
Theorem
through
proof,
that,
theorem proof, theorem
yeah,
proof.
theorem proof, theorem proof. No,
discussion, no real, very little motivation, context, you know, really discussion about what are we really doing here, how to really think about this stuff, how to frame it, and it's just,
yeah.
yeah,
And a lack of concrete examples in particular. Like
terrible.
I didn't realize that at the time, but like how you're supposed to think about it, like as like here's a theorem. Let me think of some concrete examples of it, or like try to come up with counter examples, and or you know that kind of thing. So I was, but so what ended up working out okay was I got really solid on a lot of the proofwriting mechanics of it, but so I got really good at pushing the symbols around in logically consistent manner, but
Yeah,
I didn't really have a great feeling for analysis. I mean,
sounds like
I could do epsilon delta
most
proofs.
sounds like most undergraduate math majors,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're playing this little game of pushing symbols around, but nobody really has a great intuitive grasp of the subject itself because it's not really taught. It's not, you're not really structured in that way. It's, I mean, it's fine if you, I mean, I could see how we're going to push symbols around until you get fluent in this, and then we're going to talk about things
Hmm.
at a more structured, intuitive level. Although I think pushing symbols around without concrete examples is just a really inefficient way to go about things. But they just
It
skip the
is.
concrete examples, and they never get to the let's talk bigger picture here. What is real analysis about? What are we trying to achieve? How to think about this subject? How does this fit into the framework of upper mathematics, into the profession of a mathematician's profession? And you never get to any of that. And so you just do the theorem, proof, theorem, and then it's so
Yeah,
poorly done at the undergraduate level, almost without exception. There are probably a few, probably like 2% of professors, math professors at the university level, undergraduate university level, who take it really, who take the pedagogy seriously and are really trying to teach them. The rest just show up, lecture, problem set, whatever. Good luck.
yeah, yeah. So I fell into this trap, and yeah, it was in hindsight, it was very inefficient to be working this way because I basically was picking up on what most math undergrads pick up on is like, okay, this is how you do proofs. This is general logical reasoning patterns, but what exactly have I proved in real analysis? Like, how does that work again? Like, what is all this? Like, do I have concrete examples of these theorems, or like, do I feel it in my bones? Not really. No. um, so this took me a while to realize, but so I but that was the situation at the time. But yeah, so after I did, well, okay, that was my junior year of high school, when I was just like going crazy doing all this math stuff. And my junior year of high school, I also, well, I should say, I also did a like introduction to Python course on
Mm-hmm.
MIT OpenCourseWare. So that it wasn't like super intense. I didn't follow it up with more computer science courses, but
Mm-hmm.
that at least got me to the point where I could write some simple like play scripts to compute this or that or run a simulation of something cool.
Right.
Um, and so my junior year, then the one thing that my high school did have going for it academically was it had this research program, which would it was a research class. It was almost like the chemistry and biology AP chemistry and biology teacher. They were friends, and they had it was kind of a similar thing to I think that a smaller scale of like what you and Sandy did for Math Academy, where it's like you just like your own sheer force of will just rammed this thing through, made it a thing, and now it's a thing. And so they had done that at like decade ago or something. It was a long standing thing. And so they had this research class, and they had some relationships with professors in the area where they could they would you signed up for the research class, and what you were expected to do is you would cold email professors that you were
Mm-hmm.
interested in doing research projects with,
Right.
and they would coach you on how to email a professor, how to like who to they would kind of coach you through the process, but you had to go out and do it, and you had to go it was the last period of the day. So you would go and meet with the professors in person. You would leave the school. You're allowed to do that as part of this class. And so the goal was to get a kind of like year-long research project that you would do in some professor's lab that you would then present at science fairs. And so I did that, and I ended up working at IU South Bend in Professor Elon Levine's lab. He does
IU is
dark matter
Indiana University.
at Indiana University in South Bend. Yeah. And yeah, so he did dark matter research. In particular, it was an experimental physics lab. So they had these, they, 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 they worked with the COO project, which is in Fermilab. And so
Mhm.
what they would do in their lab was that they would supply um, these sound detectors, and so these sound detectors would be attached onto um, into the sides of this bubble chamber that was filled with a superheated liquid, and it was a ways underground, and the idea was like detecting unknown particles whizzing through the air by the sound signatures that they make when they whiz through the bubble chamber, hit a molecule of the liquid, and then because the liquid is superheated, even a small collision then causes a bubble, then like expands and erupts,
Mhm.
and this creates a sound signature. So now you got
Right.
all these sound signatures of different particles, and
Right.
it's underground to limit the amount of particles that we don't really care about, um, and so the sound signature would get picked up by these acoustic transducers. And so my project had to do with creating a material to improve how much sound passed through, just to improve the resolution of um,
Was any of
these
the math
transducers.
you learned applicable in this case, or the physics itself?
The physics came into play a little bit, but it was mostly it was kind of like materials science, I guess. So the thing was like I was super into like the astrophysics stuff, but it's just like, as a high school student, you get kind of slim pickings
Like beggars
for
can't be choosers, right?
yeah,
I don't want to do
exactly.
dark matter. I want to do,
Yeah, it's like I don't want to do
nice work
experimental
without.
physics.
Yeah.
I want to do theoretical physics. I want to like, but it's just
Shut up,
like,
kid. This is what you're getting.
yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like okay, I'm doing a dark matter project. It's an experimental physics. I'm not
Yeah.
great with experimental physics. It doesn't leverage all the skills that I've built up, but it's physics. I mean, it's dark matter. I get to write about it. I get to talk about it. And
That's still cool. Yeah.
what ended up coming in useful is like all the physics and math that I've been learning for talking about the subject, about dark matter, and presenting at science fairs and stuff. There's a difference between a kid who just does a project and doesn't really know much about the subject outside of the one project that they just like followed the recipe on,
Right.
versus the kid who has like lots of exposure to physics and math and everything, and so you can just talk more and like impress the judges more, because like these science fair competitions, what they're looking at is like, it's not just your project, it's also your communication of your project and your ability to talk about like just the overall context of the project. Like, convince me you know what you're talking about, and this is not just like that you are begrudgingly going and presenting this at a science fair because your parents made you do this thing.
Yeah. This is which you went to like the National or Westinghouse or some big science
So
fair.
yeah, this ended up I ended up taking this project to Intel International Science Fair.
They
And
kind of took over the Westinghouse. Kind of became the Intel for a while, I think.
okay, yeah, now it's
Westinghouse
the
was the big
Generon.
one for a long time, and then they give out scholarships and stuff, and I think Intel basically took it over. I don't
Yeah,
know if they
yeah,
still are
yeah.
or not.
Yeah, so that was 20, the spring of 2013. It was the 2012 to 2013 school year. And yeah, so I got to fly out to Arizona, I think it was, Phoenix, Arizona, and present that. And that was just, um, yeah, it was kind of a wild experience because I mean, I just kind of, I mean, and now I see like the paths and the pipelines for doing this stuff, and it's like all clear. I have a bird's eye view of how this goes. But at the moment, I was just kind of running in whatever direction felt like I was learning a lot and felt like it would be good for my future. And yeah, so it was just it was shocking to me how much my life had changed in that year.
because of doing that.
And
Did
yeah,
you learn any more math after that, or were you just focusing on the physics research?
so yeah, so actually, I had around that time, I had decided that the next year I wanted to see if I could get some original math research
Mm-hmm.
um, to do as a science project. Because I was still like, okay, do I really want to do experimental physics again? I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it was fun. I had a good time, but it was like there was like something calling to me over on the math side, the pure math side,
Right.
or at least very intense mathematical modeling, and I wanted to see if I could do that. So the summer, 1 year after I had started this kind of self learning journey, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try take the summer and just come up with original math research
Mm-hmm.
and see if I can roll that into another science fair project. And so what I did was, I mean, okay, it's one of those things where it's like it's a little embarrassing in hindsight because I fell into like the trap that like lots of people fall in is like you make the jump into research too early because you get cocky, you skilled up, you get too big ahead. You're like, oh, I'm like the math genius because in South Bend, Indiana, I was the math genius. Like out of like
Right.
I didn't know just
Yeah.
where the bar is for like I didn't understand that there were other people elsewhere in bigger cities who are doing the same track, and I thought I was just like stand out and I'm like, okay, well, why don't I try to do math research now? And so I came up with a kind of cool project that was where I one of the things I learned in calculus was about the partial fractions decomposition.
Yeah. I
And
remember you talking about that. Yeah.
yeah, one thing that I kind of liked, one perspective to math that I kind of liked was like just really reining in hardcore computations. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was like, the kind of thought experiment that I was having is like, what if you suppose you have an arbitrary polynomial over an arbitrary polynomial. Can you come up with a formula for the partial fractions decomposition of that? And
Mm-hmm.
that just seemed like such an interesting thing to try to tackle. And
Mm-hmm.
so I spent the summer trying to tackle that and just running. I took a kind of like almost like an experimental mathematics approach to
Mm-hmm.
this where I would run simulations of in Wolfram Alpha. Here's a polynomial over a polynomial, and I would get like a table of the partial fractions expansions for like a first degree, second degree, third degree over a first degree, second degree,
Right.
third degree, like these coefficient relationships, whatever, and then try to extract patterns from the table. And that actually went pretty well. And I got some patterns, and I was able to. I think the full case of polynomial over polynomial got way too hairy, but I could do like a like x to the a arbitrary power uh, over a fully factored polynomial,
Mm-hmm.
a product of linear factors,
Right.
and raised to any power. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and so I came up with a general formula for that, and I proved it using double induction actually. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd never learned about double induction before, but I had learned single induction in pre-calc class, And my proofwriting chops from working through a lot of this like MIT open course, like abstract, like proof data, like Tom Apostle analysis. My proofwriting chops were developed enough that double induction was just kind of an obvious consequence. And so so I did that, and yeah, I got a a result there, which was kind of cool. But I later realized, um, I think this was more in the fall of the school year. Like I just been like poking around other math, and I realized like in complex analysis, there's this thing called the residue theorem, which basically it's a more efficient way to compute. Like you can use it to more efficiently compute partial fractions, and it like most things in complex analysis, it just turns out really beautiful. And so
A general case for
yeah,
the real analysis.
exactly.
You have this
So
extra
I was like,
dimension, and it makes everything fall right into place.
exactly.
Which is
But
kind of like why physicists are always trying to add these dimensions, because you add these extra dimensions, and then all the really hard stuff in the 3 or 4 dimensions just like falls right out of it. You're like, yeah, it's like magic.
yeah,
You know, if we had this extra
yeah,
dimension,
exactly.
assuming they're real, you know.
Exactly. And so, but the end result was I realized like, wow, this thing that I had done, I mean, it was a cool result for me. It was like, if, 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 if complex analysis had not been discovered yet, maybe this would have been a cool result. But we're further
Yeah.
along in that.
So
And it's like, what? Well, I guess nobody cares. But so that just turned into basically a rep on research for me.
yeah, it
But it
sounds
was
like it
like,
was a
okay,
good
well,
exercise for you. It sounds like it was a really good.
yeah,
You came up with the
yeah. Oh,
idea,
totally.
you researched it, you characterized it, you used experimental um, methods, you proved result, you saw patterns from the experimental results, characterized those, came up with a way of stating it, proving it. So I mean, that's you went through all the full, and then discovered that it was actually had been already done elsewhere as a special case of some other thing. So yeah, the
Yeah.
whole experience of a mathematician's research, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot to learn from that. I mean, okay, so that's one of the reasons why I on X, Twitter, I'm often like, no, discovery learning, save that until you've got your fundamental skills in place. Um, because like you don't want to, it's just inefficient. And I mean, there's stuff to learn from it, but it's way better if it takes so much time to go through and make a discovery. Like, how about let's save that for when making the discovery actually
Get more
yields
out of it. We want to get
serious
more
results.
out. We can get more from these reps if you have the component skills in
Yeah,
place. I mean, it's like
yeah,
you right. We're thinking of like what's the most efficient way from go to A to Z, and so if you know the total number of sort of area under the curve, the total hours put in, if you try and do stuff too early, then there's a great inefficiency. It's great. Like you brought some stuff forward that you would have learned later, but in aggregate, you spent more hours getting to Z because you're not getting as much out of it. And you could have spent that time getting these really important requisite skills in place,
yeah,
you know.
exactly. And the end result of your discovery, even if you manage to make the discovery, like guess what? Nobody gives a shit because it's not real new. It's new knowledge to you. You did research like relative to your own knowledge base, but humanity has more knowledge. It's not a
It's nothing new. Yeah.
publishable result mathematically.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you want to, when you're gonna invest a lot of time and effort into a project, like make sure it's something that's actually really really impressive. Um, but so yeah, so what I ended up doing is I ended up doing another experimental physics project because so that same summer that I was doing all this mathematical stuff, I also was doing an internship at Notre Dame's QuarkNet program,
Mhm.
and so it was another kind of like let's improve a physics detector. This one was the CMS detector at CERN, and so they were the way the data was transmitted in this detector was optical data. It was flowing through these light guiding plastics. And so the goal, it's a similar thing where it's like, let's just improve let's improve the resolution by choosing plastics that that allow the most light to get through, conserve the signal the best. And I got this this internship there because I guess in junior year I was just kind of like the standout smart kid at the school, and it's like, well, there was the school had a relationship with this QuarkNet program where it's like every year they send like a kid there, like who's the smartest kid in the grade, they get offered the
Send
QuarkNet
us your
project.
top nerd.
Yeah, Sunday's your top nerd. And so it kind of goes into the effect of pre-learning and the smart kid effect that we've talked about on previous episodes, where it's like, well, I'm in the running for I'm the one who got selected for that, and so I got this opportunity, and so I did that. So the following year I did another science project on this, but yeah, this one didn't make it as it was kind of funny. This one didn't make it as far to internationals, and but the reason that it didn't was there were two things. First was I was doing it with a partner, which I thought would be kind of fun. The teacher of this research program advised me against it because he was like, dude, there's a limited amount of funding to send kids to the International Science Fair. It's not about we can only send this many projects. It's about we can only send this many kids. So if you have two people on a project, then it needs to be
cost, yeah.
Yeah, twice the cost. It needs to be twice as bad. You need to have more than twice as high likelihood of going to internationals. So and doing well there. So the project was I think it was better than my initial one, but it wasn't like an order of magnitude better. And yeah, which again is I fell into so many of these like junior researcher scientist traps, like the whole like, okay, let's take analysis,
mistakes, right?
hard analysis, concrete examples. Who cares? We don't do that. We're like we're the elite. I only use the elite hard books that don't do concrete examples because like that's what smart kids do, right? And like, oh, let's do mathematical research. We don't have to consult anyone to make sure our problem statement is worth digging into. Let's just dig into it and see where it goes. And then again, like the adult in the room who has like plenty of experience with science fairs is saying like dude, don't bring a partner on this, like,
right.
And there was no need for me to bring a partner on it. Like it was like there was this other guy who was like working on just a similar vein of the internship, and like at the end I was like, dude, why don't you be my science project partner and we do this just because thought it was fun. But again, not listening to the advice of the person who actually knows what they're talking about. So yeah, the reason why I'm so like learn your fundamentals first, concrete examples, all these things like kind of like that on Twitter and in my writing and everything is because I've fallen into I've hit my head on basically every ledge there is to hit your head on this kind of thing.
Yeah, well, so I think it's hard-won advice. You learn stuff the hard way. You're not just repeating what you heard somewhere else. Like I can tell you why this isn't going to work or why this is not a good idea. Just like that, I'm sure the professor told you. He's like, money, the constraint of money is really a big one, and you need to think about. And so he was trying to tell you. Of course, you're like, money. I don't know. Adults have money. They have tons of money. Like, no, you understand. So yeah, I think that's it. But that's why it's so, there are more and less efficient ways to do things. The most important thing is that you do something. You really put your effort into something. The best is if you kind of listen to some good advice and you can get the most out of it possible. Worst case, it's not as efficient, but you really you learned a lot. You
Oh
made some
yeah.
mistakes. I mean, it'd been cool if you had gone to the internationals or whatever, maybe that would have been like a more interesting, rewarding experience in total. But you certainly got a lot out of it. If at the very least, not the very least being you got some hard lessons. Like, oh, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again. These are
Yeah.
these are rookie mistakes. That's the thing is like rookies got to make rookie mistakes. And part of
Yeah.
rookie mistakes is they don't
Yeah,
listen
yeah.
to senior people, right? No, it's old people. They don't know stuff, right? I just want to do it. Okay, rookie.
Mhm.
See you at the end. I'll see you at the finish line. How'd that go for you? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's great.
Exactly. So I mean, this is all one of the reasons why I'm just so intensely motivated to just get all the foundational skill building, everything, get all this pipeline as part of Math Academy, because it's like, if you have the right guidance in this, like I saw so many other kids who went so much further, who had put in, it's not that they put in more work, but it's that they had better guidance and they were better listening to said guidance,
Yeah.
and they came much further. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
been one of my core
that's a.
motivations.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, it's like really that. Yeah, I get it. So for Math Academy, for kids who go beyond calculus, for the segment that is in high school or whatever, or early college, and they're like, look, I want to just get way ahead and making it very possible to get these like undergraduate level skills on lockdown. It's like math, probability and proofwriting and analysis and linear algebra. That stuff is just rock solid. Complex variables and stuff. It just makes so many more things possible and open later. But the thing
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
the thing is, like, this stuff is a solved problem. Like, we've solved this for the most part. I mean, we still got some more to prove. Not to, no pun intended, on the proof stuff. I think we still have some R&D work and how we're going to really tackle that and how it's really going to be done, in our real analysis and abstract algebra courses. But we can lock this stuff down so that it is just extremely efficient to go whatever level you want up through the undergraduate level. No, there's no rough edges. It's just, and like, and then it allow people to just launch earlier and with more momentum and with more confidence in these various directions. Where otherwise they don't even get nearly as far as you did. I mean, you had a lot of perseverance. I think this says a lot about, everything from your aptitude to your work ethic to your ability to self-organize, time manage, that you were able to get through all this stuff on your own. But a lot of kids, it's just not, and most kids just aren't going to be able to push through that
yeah,
stuff. It's just too difficult. It's too not enough support, not enough structure, not enough of everything, you know.
yeah, yeah. Right. Having the path and the direction makes it more accessible to lots of kids who could do it if they focused on it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
We always joke refer to it as the cattle chute. Just get them in the cattle chute, right? Just
Mhm.
go, right? Like you don't have to be like, what? Just don't worry about it. Just go. Trust us. This is the way. We're going to get you to the end as
Yeah.
efficiently as possible. Just you don't have to be like, well, what about that? Just don't do that. I mean, you can. You can. It's hard. You want to learn some lessons about how to waste time and not get to where you want. But if you
Yeah.
just get in the system, like it's pretty straightforward.
Well, we can maybe on a later podcast we can go through part two, which is like there's all of these lessons that I learned in high school. Like this is like yeah, this is the first half. There's a whole other half of getting into college, placing into the most advanced math classes, whatever, like that. I know you had like a lot of experiences on that front, and like just getting slammed in the face with like some of the craziest math. Day one abstract algebra. Here's this 20-page packet of definitions or
Yeah,
whatever.
50-page packet on
50.
Trump and definitions and abstract algebra. You're like, Jesus, what is
Yeah.
this?
We should probably save that for
Yeah.
a future one.
All right. Why don't we just cut it here? We'll just,